Good morning, and welcome to Seattle Atheist Church. Our church was founded on the principles of scientific naturalism and secular ethics. Truth claims are attempted here, and we stand ready to revise our thinking in light of new information. We attempt to be excellent to all conscious beings, and we believe in good, because good works in non-mysterious ways. If that sounds right to you, then you are probably in the right place. So the way we do it is we have a short talk followed by a discussion. After the talk, we'll get into a circle, and we go to about 1:30. I would like everyone here to know that we do this every Sunday. So every Sunday at noon, with the exception of like the week of Christmas and New Year's, we're here. It's often upstairs. If you'd like to support the church financially, there's usually a jar that's up there on the piano today. You can drop in an offering, or you can do so off of seattleatheist.church. We use that money just to rent the room, so that's what that is if you want to help with that. We also get together the third Saturday of every month at 3 o'clock at Brower's for drinks if you'd like to join us for that, 21 and older. So without any further ado, welcome, Mickey, and I'll let you introduce your talk and everything, but I think people are really interested.
Thank you, Ruth. So before I begin, I'd like to say, wow, it is so great to see so many people excited to hear about why we're assholes. Okay. Also, atypically for me, I'd like to know that this talk is based on a great deal of extensive research, all of it done by my beloved wife, Eva Karlström. So thanks, Eva. And I hate clickbait. How many people here hate clickbait? Okay, yeah. I don't want these headlines that tease and you wade through 15 pages to get to the, yeah. So the payoff here is, yeah, some people are assholes, sorry, some atheists are assholes, and we better not be, because it doesn't work. So what does? That's the talk in a nutshell. Let's talk some specifics. How many people here are fans of Richard Dawkins, or Sam Harris, or Chris Hitchens? There's your hand. You people are so stupid. What is wrong with you? Don't you realize you're supporting Islamophobia? Don't you realize you're supporting you're idiots. I give up on you. You're hopeless. How can you be that dumb? Whose mind just changed? That's what I thought. A big wall of no hands out there. I can't imagine someone being convinced by that kind of contemptuous diatribe. It just doesn't work. And yet we have a group, often called the New Atheists, who pretty much are the things I listed there. I can find a lot of Islamophobic quotes from the New Atheists. I can find a lot of disparaging comments about women and femininity among the New Atheists. And a lot of disparaging comments about religion and the religious. Now it's possible to critique religion without insulting the religious. Stephen Fry did a magnificent interview on a British talk show whose name escapes me at the moment. But if you Google Stephen Fry meets God or Stephen Fry confronted by God or one of those things, you'll find it. Let me really quickly look for that here. Here we are. So Stephen Fry went on the talk, The Meaning of Life, with Gabe Byrne hosting. And Gabe Byrne said, well, what happens? What would you do if you died and you actually meet God? And Stephen Fry said, I'd say, bone cancer in children? What's that about? How dare you? How dare you create a world with this much, so full of injustice and pain, and it's not our fault. It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil. And he goes on for a magnificent 3 minutes or so about why God, if God exists, is a vile, sadistic bully. He doesn't say word one about Christians. How wrong they are, let alone how stupid they are. Because how many people here think that Christianity is a stupid thing to believe? I bet if I'd asked that question 5 minutes ago, I'd gotten a lot more hands. How many people here think you have to be stupid to be a Christian? Okay, good. Looks like I've already done some good today. Thing is, The new atheists will tell you at great length that religion is destructive, and that religion is stupid, and that to believe in religion requires excessive credulity, which, to be fair, it probably does, actually. Certainly excessive from the point of view of a skeptic. But they stop there. They say religion is dumb and destructive, and the people who believe it are probably dumb and probably destructive, so we shouldn't believe it. And they don't stop to inquire, why do people believe in religion? What purpose does it serve? And am I doing anything useful in telling people how bad religion is? I don't know if you guys are familiar with the research, but if someone has a belief, and you provide them with evidence that contradicts the belief, what happens? Their belief gets stronger. Yeah, their belief gets stronger because you gave them evidence against it. Argument doesn't actually change people's minds. Giving them some information and stepping back and see what happens might be effective. They have to get the information from somewhere. But trying to shove it down their throats has the opposite, has a backlash effect. It is ineffective, it doesn't work. There's a, how many of you are familiar with John Gottman? A fair number of you. John Gottman is a relationship psychologist at the University of Washington. And he has something he calls the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Or the 4 horsemen of relationships, something like that. The 4 horsemen. And they are criticism, defensiveness, reference check.
Stonewalling and contempt.
Stonewalling and contempt. And they're signs of a broken relationship. They intrinsically damage a relationship they happen in. How many people here have at some point in the last year expressed contempt for religion? How about contempt for the religious? You guys are really brave to put your hands up, by the way. I'm lucky. I've been prepping for this talk for a while, so I didn't have to put mine up. I was privy to a conversation a couple of decades ago between my late mother and my friend Nathaniel. And Nathaniel, speaking contemptuously, sorry Nathaniel, about religion, said, religion is just sheep pens for the sheep. And my mother, who was fairly wise for a Christian, that was a joke. My mother said, but sheep want and need sheep pens. If you get rid of the sheep pen, the sheep huddle together because they're terrified, and that's why they wander off and get eaten by wolves. So the sheep are going to make sure they have sheep pens. And it's much better for us as she said for him, but for us as freethinkers, atheists, skeptics, agnostics, it's better for us that their sheep pens are opt-in and don't have the force of law behind them, right? If you don't let sheep organize their own sheep pens, you don't let people protect themselves, their identity, their sense of purpose, with religion, they're going to find a way to do it with law. And that's much worse for us. Religion also has some real benefits. There's a reason that I attend Seattle Atheist Church, and that I'm glad it calls itself a church. And that's that church attendance predicts happiness and longevity. Going to church is good for people. That doesn't mean God is real. It doesn't mean the power of prayer. It means that the kind of community and assurance that people get from attending church has actual, measurable, objective benefits. This is great, because this is a place where I get those benefits, and I don't have to believe stuff for which there is no evidence. That's a win, right? But when you look at a theist, and they say they believe something, it's probably not because they're an idiot. It's probably not because they're just falling for something hook, line, and sinker. It probably is because they were raised in that religion. The very best predictor by far of someone's religious beliefs as an adult is what religion they were raised as, right? But the fact that they believe is not about being too dumb to look at the evidence. It's about things they're getting from that religious belief. And treating them with contempt is not the way to get them to take in new information that might eventually change their mind. I was a Christian until I was in my mid-30s, I think. Not a very traditional Christian, not a very fundamentalist Christian since I was about this tall, but I was a Christian. And I had a friend, Rand Huso. Rand, if you're watching this, hey, we miss you. He moved to New Zealand. And Rand was sarcastic about religion. He was He would make snide comments to me, but he wasn't mean-spirited about it. And he didn't try to change my mind. He just, sent me the occasional URL. About 4 years later, I looked at the stuff in my head, which had been put there in part by the links he sent me, and went, oh, crud, I can't be a Christian anymore. It's not true. If he'd been contemptuous and rude, he'd be like, wait, you're a Christian? What are you doing being a programmer? I would probably still identify as a Christian, because I would never have gotten the useful information he gave me. Sent me to a site called God Hates Amputees. It's a really good site, actually. It reminds me of a quote by George Bernard Shaw, who said that Lourdes, the place where the Virgin Mary appears, he said, Lourdes is the most blasphemous place on earth, because they have room after room after room of crutches and wheelchairs, and not one wooden leg, glass eye, or toupee. In other words, the God who is being celebrated at Lourdes, if he exists, is apparently capable of curing things where you can't actually see them get cured, and not of even so much as regrowing hair on someone's head. Note that I am not saying people who go to Lourdes to pray are dumb. People who go to Lourdes to pray are buying into the opiate of the masses. I'm actually making a critique of the God they believe in and his consistency with the evidence. That was the critique that worked for me, to turn my conscious self-identification from theist to atheist. Because I thought, wait a minute. Christianity says that if you pray with enough faith, God will do what you ask for. And sometime in history, there must have been some mother whose son came back from the war with a leg blown off, who had that much faith when she prayed, God, please grow my son's leg back. And that's never happened. I thought, there is no omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent God possible. Because if there were, there wouldn't be bone cancer in children. There wouldn't be horrifying parasitic diseases that leave people blind or deaf or in horrible pain for their entire lives. There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for a God who would do that to people. But there are a lot of excuses, in fact, a lot of reasons for religious belief. So if you want to talk to the religious, you need to start from a place of respect, kindness, compassion, and curiosity. Why curiosity? Because if you don't want to hear from them, they won't want to hear from you. Reciprocity is a fundamental human instinct. Babies show a preference for fair behavior over unfair behavior, acted out by little puppets. We are born with a sense of, that ain't fair. And it's strong enough. There's a famous experiment. You have two subjects. Experimenter over here hands me a $20 bill. Says you can divide this any way you want between the two of you. After you divide it, that guy over there decides, does he accept the division or not? Well, rationally, I should divide it like, $19, $1. Because, hey, $1 is better than none, so he'll take the deal and I'll get $19 instead of none, right? Shoot, I just keep all 20 for myself. He's not losing anything if he says, sure, that's a fine deal by me. Turns out, people are willing to accept, the guy over there is willing to accept about a 60-40 split. And anything less fair than that, no. Even though it costs them money, even though they would get $5, the fact that I would get 15, they'll tell me to screw off. They will take nothing at all over unfairness. Well, if I want you to sit down and listen to my views on atheism, but I'm not willing to sit down and listen to your views on religion, that ain't fair. It may be what we want. Having talked to a very large number of Latter-day Saints missionaries over the years, I can tell you that it was some fascinating logical debates and theological discussions. I'm sorry, theology is a hobby. There were some great discussions there, but they didn't change my mind. And I didn't actually get that much more information from it, except a lot of details of LDS theology. It's kind of cool, actually, if you like that sort of thing. But I still had to sit and listen. Because if I just said, oh, hi, welcome to House, let me tell you about atheism. There's no God, because God is a bad, bad thing to believe in. Also, if you believe in it, it damages your rationality, it makes you stupider. Well, I don't think they would have come back. I don't think they would have had the thought, hey, there are some people out there who are atheists and nice about it. Or, and actually, at the time, mostly I was a Christian and nice about it. So you have to be able to engage in a dialogue. And you have to do it with respect, because the opposite of respect is contempt. If you show someone contempt, they will stop listening. If you say, anyone who believes X is an idiot, and they believe X, you just insulted them. You may not even know that they believe that. You say that, they stop listening because you just insulted them. You've just shown contempt toward them. And no one will listen if you show them contempt. It breaks relationships. Now, you might think that I'm talking a bit much about relationships here. I don't want to be relationship-y, whatever. I don't want a relationship with a theist, right? Well, actually, given that your doctor might be a theist and your best friend's cousin might be a theist, hey, your best friend might be a theist. And one day you're like, so I'm going to the Seattle Atheist Church, you want to come? And she's like, wait, atheist? Right? Probably best if you don't find that out by talking about how stupid Christians are. Right? Because you can lose a friend that way. The other thing about, I'm going to pull up a quick quote here. Where are we? It is misogyny. I'm just saying,
Did you get distracted by Twitter?
No, I got... Yes, well played. There's a quote that I have misplaced by Sam Harris, I believe, talking about why there are so many men in the new atheism. And he basically, I'm paraphrasing here, he says...
You want me to pull it up?
Yeah, pull it up. He basically says there are a lot more men in atheism because skepticism is like opposed to this sort of extra estrogen, compassion, fuzzy stuff. Yeah, that's A, really, really insulting, and B, really, really wrong. There is nothing unrigorous or unscientific about altruism or compassion. Humans have compassionate impulses for a reason. And that's that our selfish genes would rather have us die saving eight people who are, siblings of ours, than have us live alone and all those siblings die. Yeah, here we go. Thank you. There's something about that critical posture that is to some degree intrinsically male and more attractive to guys than to women. The atheist variable just has this. It doesn't obviously have this nurturing, coherence-building, extra estrogen vibe that women would want.
It's not pink.
Yeah, atheism is not pink. I have rarely seen such a big, bold, boys only allowed, no girls allowed sign on a clubhouse. And he's discarding nurturing and coherence-building. The world that would be built by the new atheists might be very, very logical, but I wouldn't want to live there. I sure wouldn't want to be a child there. Yeah. By the way, that was Sam Harris. It is it's really important that we present ourselves in a way that is open and accepting of people. Not because, well, it's a good thing to do. Not because, well, we don't want to be jerks, because if we act badly, people will go, wow, atheists sure are assholes. How many of you are familiar with the Westboro Baptist Church? The people who march outside of funerals, veterans' funerals, and children who die of cancer and things like that, with signs saying, God hates fags. They're the God hates fags people, right? They're really, really not okay people. They're really they do a lot of harm. They cause a lot of pain. And if you say to people, well, what do Christians think of gays? One of the reactions you'll get is, well, some of them carry those God hates fags signs. Right? Is that the fault of Christians? is it even the fault of fundamentalists? Well, ask yourself this. If somebody walked up on the courthouse steps and said, I'm an atheist, and I kill puppies for fun, does that mean atheists are puppy killers? No, it means someone grabbed the name atheist and stuck it on the thing they did.
Is it in your religious text?
Is it in a religious text?
No, is killing puppies in the atheist religious text?
Well,
Because hating
not
gays
not
are in a lot of ways.
so here, listen. There are actually a lot of Christians in the world who do not think that God cares at all about straight versus gay.
Sure.
And also, is it in a religious text? Atheism doesn't have a religious text.
Right.
Neither does Christianity. I mean, people say, oh, well, I believe the Bible. Have you seen how many different Bibles there are? Have you seen how many people, well, I believe the Bible, I just think people have misinterpreted this passage about. Right? You may have noticed, I assume you've noticed, that the Bible has more than a few contradictions in it. It actually does. And there are Christian apologists who have spent centuries, literally, finding ways to reconcile thou shalt not kill and kill every one of them that stands up and pees against the wall. Sorry, technically the quote is, kill everyone that pisseth against the wall. So it's a directive from God in the Bible, from one of God's anointed, I think, saying we're going to conquer these people and kill every single one of them who stands up to pee. But thou shalt not kill. You know? Well, if you take a document that's full of contradictions, if you assume falsehood, you can prove anything. You can make a logical proof of anything at all if you start with a false axiom. And if your axioms have a contradiction, one of them is demonstrably false, right? But also, you can take the Bible is more like a Rorschach test than like a religious text. You can take whatever mindset you want and project it onto the Bible and get back a mirror image of that mindset. Get back a reflection of that mindset. So when you say, does the atheist religious text include killing puppies? Well, it includes torture. How many people here think that torture is a good idea? Or effective? Morally acceptable in any way? A couple of hands, sort of. Sam Harris thinks it's a great idea, and that we should apply it to Muslims immediately.
Can you provide a quote, please?
I would indeed provide a quote. I'm glad you asked. Wait, you mean you want an evidence-based discussion? The reason, by the way, that this talk does have research in it is that if I'm going to say things this critical of people as popular as Dawkins and Harris, I'd better have my ducks in a row. Thank you, the avian alignment diva. So, actually, 1 second here. I'm just going to use Google for this one because I'm smart.
Yeah, I can print a link specifically for that.
Sam Harris torture.
Probably insane on the arguments.
So, I believe that I have successfully argued for the use of torture in any circumstance in which we would be willing to cause collateral damage. Given what many of us believe about the exigencies of our war on terrorism, the practice of torture in certain circumstances would seem to be not only permissible, but necessary. The reasons for our inability to understand that torture is necessary are, I trust, every bit as neurological as those that give rise to the moon illusion. Clearly, these intuitions are fallible. Fearing that the above reflection on torture may offer a potent argument for pacifism, I would like to briefly state why I believe we must accept the fact that violence or its threat is often an ethical necessity. We are at war with Islam. It may not serve our immediate foreign policy objectives, for our political leaders to openly acknowledge this fact, but it is unambiguously so. It is not merely that we are at war with an otherwise peaceful religion that has been hijacked by extremists. We are at war with precisely the vision of life that is prescribed to all Muslims in the Quran. No amount of casuistry?
Something like that.
Sorry, reader's accent. No amount of casuistry can disguise the fact that the outer lesser jihad, war against infidels and apostates, is a central feature of the faith. Islam, more than any religion humans have ever devised, has the makings of a thoroughgoing cult of death, and so on. And then he specifically advocates torturing Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. That's the guy who was waterboarded 185 times in 2 months. After which, reportedly, there was not much left of him as a human being. Sam Harris is not only an atheist, he's one of the leading lights of modern atheism. He's one of the faces of the new atheism. And he thinks that torturing specific Muslims and general Muslims is not just morally justified, but potentially morally obligatory. So yeah, to the extent that atheists have a religious text, it's the writings of Dawkins and Harris and other such people. And in those holy texts is, we really ought to torture Muslims. That's a great idea. Let's do that. We don't actually get a say in who claims to speak for us. But we do get a say in who we give our attention and support to. One of the most prestigious awards in atheism is the Richard Dawkins Award. And Dawkins in specific, this I do have notes on. Dawkins has said, Rebecca Watson was a woman who attended an atheist conference and suffered a lot of sexual harassment and wrote about it. And Dawkins criticized her for being off message because we should only criticize the behavior of religionists. I want to be clear here, because I also believe in fairness. Dawkins apologized for that a couple of years later and said he was really sorry to have said it. But he said it. And it's still out there, being something that non-atheists read and go, wow, what a jerk. Attitudes like that, publicly expressed, are part of why we generally see about 2-to-1 men to women in this group, which I find really distressing. On the other hand, it's a lot better than a lot of atheist groups, because we try to be explicitly not sexist and not non-discriminatory, basically. We do our best. And so we actually have quite a few women who attend our church, and it's great. But if you look at the statistics, in most religions, women significantly outnumber men among regular church attendees. Our gender ratio isn't just imbalanced, it's flipped the other way around. If we ascribe that to the fact that women just aren't rational enough, maybe we're mistaking the cause. It becomes a really particularly nasty sort of self-fulfilling prophecy at that point. Self-fulfilling plus a bunch of blindness and misogyny. We can do better than that. And part of doing better than that is not lionizing people who say things like that. Now, I don't have so much of a beef with Dawkins on that one, because he did apologize, and we have to let people make mistakes and apologize. I mean, the three of you, I know you've never made a mistake, so you can just be mean to people. Yeah. We have to have room for apologies and forgiveness. And we don't even get, pennies in heaven for it. We just have to do it because it works. Because if you don't have a mechanism for relationship repair, you end up very lonely in this life. You don't need a next life to find out that being unforgiving makes this life pretty bad.
Amen.
Thank you. I'm going to give you another quote here. This is a really, really one of my favorite quotes from Kurt Vonnegut, brilliant author, from the story God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. Kurt Vonnegut says, "There's only one rule that I know of, babies. God damn it, you've got to be kind. Hello, babies. Welcome to Earth. It's hot in the summer and cold in the winter. It's round and wet and crowded. At the outside, babies, you've got 100 years here. There's only one rule that I know of, babies. God damn it, you gotta be kind." As atheists, we have got to be kind. We're going to look confrontational until atheism is as accepted by the mainstream as Christianity here, or Islam in many other countries in the world. I believe there are more adherents of Islam than there are adherents of Christianity at this point. We have to be kind. We have to be respectful. We have to be willing to communicate openly. And we have to we have to resist the people in our community want to be loudmouthed about how Islam is the greatest source of evil in the world today. It's a quote. I think that one was Dawkins, wasn't it? Maybe it was
I'm not
Harris.
sure. It might have been Harris.
But yeah, I think Islam is the greatest source of evil in the world today. They have someone who's not going to convert many Muslims to atheism, you know? You might actually ask why religions are doing such a much better job of recruitment than we are. I mean, they're losing people among the younger generations, but we're not picking them up. We're ending up with in America, there are more people who believe in a 6,000-year-old Earth than who believe that the Bible is literally true. This is something like 25% of Americans believe the Earth is less than 10,000 years old. That is not something to laugh at them for. It's something to worry about them for. Okay? Because, and this is a place where I think the new atheists have some good points to make, and that's why I don't want to throw them out entirely from our set. I don't want to throw their ideas out entirely. I just want to speak up really loudly against the ones that are toxic and destructive. If you really want to believe in a 6,000-year-old Earth, you have to be prepared to discard all of paleontology, most of geology, most of astrophysics, all of physics, because if you don't have carbon dating, if you do not have carbon dating, you need to not have radioactive decay. You know? You would be throwing out most of the hard sciences if you actually want to scientifically defend a 6,000-year-old Earth. And yeah, once you have ideas like that, it's a lot easier to say, well, there's no global warming. We already know that those scientists are, dangerous liars, right? But the way to change those minds is not to go, oh my God, did you hear that Christians believe the Earth is only 6,000 years old? Jeez, what idiots! That never changed anyone's mind. Sit down and talk with a Christian. I don't know, why do you believe the Earth is 6,000 years old? Listen to the answer. Some people believe it because they've been flat out lied to. Some people believe it because it's mandatory to be part of their church, and all of their friends and their family go there. Some of them believe it because they've never really thought about it. If you start out with, ha ha ha, they never will think about it, at least not talking with you. If you start with asking them, why do you think that? And they've never thought about it. Well, they might go, I guess because the pastor said so. Has your pastor ever been wrong about something just by mistake? Yeah. So what if he's wrong about the 6,000-year thing? Not your pastor lied to you, not you're an idiot, but tell me about that. In fact, basically every communication in your life is going to go better if it contains a big dose of, tell me about that. This is, given our culture and how it raises the genders differently, I can tell you that most of the assigned female at birth people in the room here probably already knew that one. And a lot of the assigned male at birth people probably didn't because no one ever told them. We've got a talk coming up in next month about Emotional Intelligence 101. One of the things we're going to talk about is the fact that if you listen to people, actually listen to what they're saying, not listen to argue with them, you learn more, they learn more, and you leave the conversation with a strengthened rather than a weakened relationship. There's a guy, I read about him a couple of years ago. He's black. He has over 300 clan robes in his closet. Not big closet, in his house. 300 clan robes. One of them the apparently purple robe of a grand high something in the clan. And you might ask, how does this guy who's black get all these clan robes? Is he exposing members of the clan and then suing them for their clan robes? Is he walking up behind clan members in a dark alley and knocking them over the head with a Bible? No. He asked to go to dinner at their house. Which, by the way, wow. Profiles encourage anyone? He asks to go to dinner at their house, and he talks with them. He doesn't talk about race. He doesn't tell them their bigoted beliefs are abominable. He doesn't tell them, how can you possibly think that? Can't you see I'm just as human as you are? He just goes and has dinner with them and talks with them. And a really astonishing number of them more than 300 at last count, go, wait a minute, this guy's a human being. I don't feel so good putting this robe on. I don't think I can be part of the clan anymore. Here, would you please just take this robe away, because that's not me anymore. Human connection, relationship, is what works. And the core of relationship is active listening, listening to understand. If you want to change the mind of a theist, don't waste your breath and their time ranting about how stupid theists are. And in fact, you probably won't get very far ranting about how stupid religion is. Instead, talk to them. Hey, I was wondering if we could talk for a bit about what you believe. Or, I go to Seattle Atheist Church on Sunday, and I know that you go to, whatever is Lutheran. I was wondering if you'd be interested in going with me to church, in me coming with you to church some Sunday, and you coming with me to mine the next Sunday, just so we have more dialogue, more communication. Okay. Be open, be accepting, be honest. If they say something like, well, everyone knows that carbon dating doesn't work, don't say, you're an idiot. Say, that's funny, I thought the evidence for it was pretty good. Let's take a look. Let's Google creationism and carbon dating. Let's Google carbon dating. Let's see what they say. Your friend might just be willing to do that with you. And they might just be willing to go, you're right, that doesn't make sense on that website. They're saying it's only accurate for the last however many 100,000 years, and so it can't be used to date dinosaur bones, but the paleontology site doesn't say it's used to date dinosaur bones, so why are they saying it can't be? Why does it matter? Of course it can. It's not used for that. There's room for education. You can teach people about logical fallacies. I know, because I had to take a class in formal logic in college, and man, there are a lot of logical fallacies out there. You can teach people to be more careful consumers of information. You can encourage evidence-based thinking, but don't start by trying to prove they're wrong. How many people here actively enjoy learning they are wrong about something? And you know what? There probably is a correlation between enjoying being proven wrong about something and being a skeptic and a freethinker. Most people really don't like to be shown that they are wrong. Most people have trouble acknowledging that they were wrong about something. The reason that I actively like being told I was wrong about something, learning I was wrong, decades, literally, of practice at enjoying being proven wrong. It took hard work because I did not like to be wrong. But it was practice that was worth doing. I learned a lot more now that I enjoy being taught that I was wrong. If you see the average person and you try to tell her how wrong she is, you try to tell him that he's an idiot for believing that, you will get absolutely nowhere. One more thing. I started to say this earlier, we are always going to be controversial, and we are going to be viewed as confrontational until atheism is as mainstream as Christianity or Islam, okay? The whole Ten Commandments on the courthouse lawn, statue of Baphomet on the courthouse lawn, Christians and the mass media, which is pretty much presumptively Christian in its perspective, both looked at that and said, oh my God, why are those atheists so confrontational and aggressive? Why are they doing this blasphemous thing? And that's going to happen as long as we are having to stand up for basic rights, enshrined in our Constitution no less, like no government establishment of religion. If you get to put your holy text on the courthouse lawn, I get to put a sculpture of Satan holding some kids in his lap and teaching them science on the courthouse lawn. But we don't have to be jerks about it. We don't have to act like assholes. We don't have to insult people. We don't have to show contempt or even feel contempt in order to change people's minds, in order to defend atheism. If we are going to have to do things like the Baphomet statue. And as we do them, we need to remember that they will be more effective if done with humility and respect. We could go, hey, look, you thought you were going to put one over on us with your 10 Commandments, but we've got a statue of the devil, we'll show you. Which is pretty much how a lot of people talked about that. And to be honest, I kind of felt some of that myself. I was like, I'll show them. But I'm also, I have base impulses too. But if we're going to talk about it, it's much more useful to go, that seems like a really confrontational thing. Why did we put up the statue of the devil? But we actually thought it was necessary. We didn't do it to make Christians uncomfortable. We didn't do it to poke fun at the Ten Commandments. There are a lot of the Ten Commandments that I follow myself. Thou shalt not kill. I'm right on board with that one. Thou shalt not steal. That's a great rule. But there are some I don't follow. And that really needs to be legally okay, even if it is religiously not okay. This gets back to the whole thing about sheep fences. People who need rules against adultery, to not commit adultery, are going to have those rules. And if they don't get to have them in their church, they'll have them in the law. Right? And people who don't happen to follow their rules of marriage, well, they would then be in legal trouble instead of merely being sneered at by Christians. Right? A very valuable benefit religion serves is it lets people make their own little enclaves with their own rules and enforce them on each other instead of on us. So yeah, go ahead and be strong in the defense of reason. But don't go out there and laugh at people for following beliefs that are contradicted by the evidence or not found in evidence. Go ahead and stand up for the legal rights of atheists, but don't do it by being deliberately rude. Don't laugh at them. If we do something provocative, and putting up a statue of the devil on the courthouse lawn, let us make no mistake, is provocative. When we choose to be provocative in defense of our legal rights, be kind. God damn it, babies. You gotta be kind. Thank you, everyone.